Adults need to understand that youth know who they are right from the start. My name is Kieran Davis. My pronouns are he, they. I'm from Laxville First Nations. I was about 15 years old when I came out as transgender. It was about 3 months after I'd cut my hair off and donated it that I'd come out. The reaction from my family and friends were pretty welcoming, as more and more people of my friend group and my family had been coming out in their own ways with their sexuality and gender as well. So my family was pretty educated on that. For part of my family, it was pretty hard to get them used to using my name and pronouns and understanding what being transgender meant. I felt safe enough to be who I was, and in my family, my mom is an educator and she did her best to be very educated in gender and sexuality so that her students could also feel safe in the school that they went to and the places that they were. So for her to be more accepting for me was very important to her. The reaction from my community was hit or miss with the acceptance and the ignorance that came with it. There are a lot of small-minded people from where I'm from, and with that I got a lot of backlash and a lot of people telling me that, you know, I was still a girl, or I'll still always be a woman, or just because of what's underneath my pants doesn't mean that I'm not a woman or not a man. And I'm neither. I'm two-spirit as well. The resources that I needed most were the two-spirit resources and teachings. I didn't start exploring the two-spirit community or teachings until following high school, when I started working for Grand Council Treaty 3 and was nominated to sit on the 2S LGBTQIA+ Council. And through that is where I got my two-spirit teachings and knowledge that I do have now. And from being on that council and still a youth, I was asked to sit on the Ontario First Nations Young People's Council. And I've just served a year term on the Ontario Youth Council. And in March, from advocating and speaking up at the Assembly of First Nations gathering in December, I spoke up against the bathroom violence that happened to me for wearing a ribbon skirt. It was tough wearing the skirts while I'm out there, but it's needed for more two-spirit peoples to be there, and I love making people feel uncomfortable with my presence so that once they get used to me, they can get used to more, you know? And I'd love to invite more two-spirit peoples and youth out to these events because it's very needed. They need to hear us, they need to listen to us, because they can't decide for us while they're out making decisions. We have to be there helping them with those decisions. You know, I see a lot of parents and even just teachers saying like, hey, you can't wear that, you can't play with those toys. You know, if a kid wants to play with Barbies and they're not necessarily born as female, that's okay. Or if a kid likes wearing a dress or a kid likes wearing a suit, you know, that's okay. We need to accept that our youth aren't gonna fit our gender norms that we have been putting on by society. The advice I give youth exploring their gender identities is you don't need to pick a label. You don't need to decide one day I'm this and then the next feel something totally different. Gender is very fluid. I know for myself, my expression is very fluid. Some days I'm more masculine, some days I'm more feminine, and that's okay. You don't have to truly pick one label, because even in Anishinaabe Moen, there are no pronouns. And so for you to set yourself a deadline on what you're identifying as, that's unreasonable, because I'm still exploring my gender and sexuality, and people still do, even when they're like elders or when they're in their middle age, like they're still exploring their gender and sexuality. And so society has led us to believe that we need to label ourselves. We don't.